What's up? Welcome to episode number 120 of the People We Love podcast. I'm Adam Choi. If you are new here, what I do is interview people from all walks of life, most often comedians and other entertainment types about their lives and careers. The conversation is casual, but I also ask everyone to highlight the people they love, who've inspired them, who've influenced them, who've helped them in their careers or personal lives. And as you can see, if you're watching this on YouTube, I am on video now too. So please be sure to subscribe on YouTube too. And for more, check out peoplewelovepodcast.com. That's peoplewelovepodcast.com. And the Instagram handle is at peoplewelovepodcast. And you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Adam Choit. And please remember to tap subscribe or follow on whatever platform you listen to podcasts on. And of course, 5-star positive reviews on iTunes, Apple Podcasts are greatly appreciated as well. Before getting into today's episode, I wanted to also mention my other podcast, Tedeschi Trucks Podcast, TEDESCHI Trucks Podcast. That's Tedeschi Trucks Podcast, all about the 12-piece rock, soul, blues powerhouse band. And it's a fan podcast, and it's a lot of fun. Definitely check that out at Tedeschi Trucks Podcast on Instagram. And on YouTube, it's Tedeschi Trucks Podcast with spaces. But for today's People We Love episode, my guest is entrepreneur, brand expert, and even much more than that, Caili Elwell. She's worn many hats over the years, but long before all of that, she grew up in Connecticut and spent a lot of time as well in the nature-infused state of Maine. An empath who's always been interested in the choices people make, ambitious, Caili's life was forever changed when she met her husband and had her daughter, Evie. Caili's for sure had some ups and downs, but her story of persistence and love for people, and especially for her own family, is truly inspirational. We cover a lot in this one, so let's just get started. Here's Caili Elwell. Okay, so it's good to see you today, Caili Elwell. Thank you for joining me on the People We Love podcast. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, how you holding up today?
Good. The sun is shining and I'm in my new house and I got a roof over my head and a job and people to love. Life is good.
Well, congratulations on the house. That's awesome. That's exciting. Where exactly are you at?
Thank you. I'm in a town about 20 minutes west of Portland, Maine.
Portland, Maine. That's cool. So it's sunny, but what is it cold outside?
I'm not even going to tell you. It was 21 degrees this morning.
No.
Yeah. So
No.
It's probably a nice warm, 38 now. But it's cold. It's getting to be the Maine winter season, I think. It's approaching. Winter is coming.
Do you hate me because I live in Southern California?
No, I mean, I moved here on my own volition. No one forced me here. If anything, I think I somewhat forced my husband here, but he loves it now. But no, I love California also. I love warm weather also, but I'm a New Englander at heart. So the cold weather runs through my blood.
You're not a Patriots fan, are you? You don't care about sports?
I don't care.
Yeah,
no, the only sports that I really watched was I went to school in Philadelphia. So the Phillies. I went to a lot of Phillies games.
I don't like them either. As long as you pick teams I don't like, it's a funny conversation.
But I don't know enough to continue the funny conversation.
Yeah.
So if you start yelling statistics or even names at me, I'm just like, the fanatic. Do you know him?
Yeah. He's portly or whatever. He's funny. No, I like the fanatic. I can tolerate him when he's bothering other teams, not the Mets.
They recently changed the mascot, I want to say, since I've graduated, which was 10 years ago.
Maybe the look.
Yeah.
Lightly. I don't know. Well, why don't we get into your journey and your story? And I ask people kind of for their, even earliest memories, what jumps out at them, even before kindergarten. Sometimes it's sounds or images or something like that. And then
it's very Rorschach.
Kind of go from there.
Yeah. So, oh gosh.
Because people don't really remember. Everything's fuzzy then. Everything's fuzzy at that point anyway. It's all fuzzy stuff.
It is fuzzy stuff. I mean, I remember living in a duplex in Connecticut. That's where I grew up, half in Connecticut and half in Maine. So Maine has always been my home. But I grew up in a duplex until I was about 6 or 7. And then my family moved to another town in Connecticut so that we could go to better school systems. And then every free moment we had, summer vacations, winter vacations, any free long weekend we had, we'd be in Maine, at our house in Maine, which was up in the mountains and just, off the grid. And it was really, really cool to grow up that way. I think I appreciate it much more now than I did then. Definitely was a brat about it then, being, no cell phone, no, no service of any kind, no television, nothing but NPR accessible in Maine when we went up there. But yeah, I remember this duplex. I remember my aunt and uncle living up above us at one point. And then like some college students living above us at one point. One college student actually lived there with his friend, and they had a pet iguana. And the guy tried to give the iguana a bath, and the iguana drowned. So he tried to give the iguana CPR, and the iguana came back to life and bit him. And I remember him having stitches like all down his face. I remember that duplex so vividly.
This is you lived in Maine. You said of the
That was in
duplex.
Connecticut. Yep, the duplex was in Connecticut, in Shelton, Connecticut.
Okay, and then you just had this other home in Maine. You never actually grew up in Maine.
It was half and half. So I went to school in Connecticut, but then any free moment where it was a long weekend, where it was a vacation, where it was winter break, summer break, anything like that, we were in Maine. So if I wasn't in Connecticut, I was in Maine.
Gotcha.
But the duplex was, in Connecticut.
With the iguana.
With the iguana, which is, I wonder if that's why I do not like reptiles. Just remembering that moment of like seeing him with the iguana and like all the blood and stitches and stuff. I wonder if that's like
it doesn't help. It doesn't help. It's not helping, I don't think.
No, and actually, if you fast forward to about, I don't know, 20 years later, I lived in Puerto Rico for a short time, and there's iguanas running rampant everywhere there. Iguanas are like the squirrels of Puerto Rico. And it took me a couple of weeks to be like, oh, this is just a normal thing. I remember the first time an iguana was like climbing above a tree, in the trees above me, when I was in a hammock, and one fell in my hammock with me. And that was pure shock also. But yeah, I grew up in half Connecticut and half the other time in Maine. And it was just me and my mom, my dad for a while, until we had, my mom had my brother, who's 8 years younger than me. And that was a difficult transition at 8 years old, from being like basically the only child to having a sibling. But very grateful for him, very grateful for for all the dynamics that he brought in. Taught me a lot about myself and growing up quickly. And so yeah, that's probably like the earliest things I remember. I remember my parents had a nonprofit for a while, where they would bring teachers and students from South Africa, whether it was school materials or health materials, bandages or computers and pencils and books and all sorts of stuff. And then we actually had them come to Connecticut. My mom was working in another school system in Connecticut, about an hour away from us. And they did sort of a integration of the school with these students. And that was so wonderful for me to grow up around, was seeing other cultures.
Did they stay?
In my household.
That's what I was asking. So they stayed in your home. It was like a foreign exchange student kind of thing.
Kind of. So some of the students stayed with families that were part of that school system, and then also some of the teachers did too. But then some of them stayed with us also. So I really loved that.
So it sounds like you like learn from having your family, your mom having your brother, and the age separation, and suddenly not being an only child, and then you're learning from like the exchange students. I think we even talked about that before we started recording this, when we spoke a little last week or whatever, about how you always want to learn, how you always have a curiosity. Is that what you
Yeah.
described it as?
Yeah, definitely. I think I always have a desire to step inside somebody's life. I mean, I think I've pretty much dedicated my career and most of just my personal life to trying on different personalities and different identities and just seeing what stuck versus just letting mine unfold naturally on its own. But I definitely have a curiosity just to learn from other people, like what makes them tick and why they choose what they choose, right? Like life is a choice every single day. And I once had a teacher tell me that life is nothing but a string of choices.
Yeah,
And it's
no,
just so true.
I agree. Yeah, I was gonna ask like who were you in like elementary school? What kind of stuff were you into as far as like hobbies? Were you always a good student even like then? Not that elementary school is super strenuous academically, I suppose.
God. Okay. So I would say that probably up until I graduated high school, the one word to describe me as a student or any kind of, educational or academic person is understood. I just feel like I just always had this different way of compartmentalizing and analyzing and taking things apart and absorbing information. I just always did it differently. And if I if I didn't do it the way that I was taught, I was told it was wrong by my teachers. I remember going and like when it was time to choose an instrument, because in fifth grade you had to choose an instrument that you wanted to try to learn. And my parents were like, "Why don't you try the violin?" So that's what I did. And then I had this one teacher who just told me over and over again how bad I was at it.
Wow.
And as a fifth grader, as a middle schooler, being like in your most vulnerable years of development, being told by someone of authority that
Yeah.
you're wrong is a total mind fuck. Like, how are you supposed to grow as a human being if you're constantly told by the adults around you that you're wrong? So I think that, yeah, school was odd for me. I definitely didn't stand out, but I definitely didn't fit in. So it was just kind of odd. I always felt like the black sheep of everything I did and everything I tried. And it's funny, I had a conversation with my mom the other day, and she said to me, like, I feel like you just didn't really put your whole heart into anything. And I think that that's completely true. Like, if it wasn't vibing with me, it was only going to get half of me if it was lucky. Whatever it was, baseball, volleyball, softball, tennis. Like, I tried all the sports. I tried ballet, I did gymnastics. I tried it all, even Irish step dancing. My name is Caili. It's spelt in Gaelic pretty much. My parents altered it for, Americans and the spelling of it eventually. And I tried Irish step dancing, which is literally a Caili. And I just tried so hard to find things that I felt like could be part of my identity. Never
Interesting.
did.
You never did.
I never did.
No, yeah, I think you're still on the journey. That I think that is your identity, is the fact that you are the type of person who is open to trying different things and continuing to want to try different things. That's unique unto itself, perhaps.
Yes, if anything, I am persistent.
Yeah, there you go. There you go, for sure. Wow. The hell I was gonna ask about like when you were in elementary school. So, where do we go
From
from
elementary
there?
school. So I
Oh, you know
continued.
what I want to. I'm sorry. I
Yeah,
know what I
yeah,
want
yeah.
to ask. I want to know more examples if you can give me any, like as to how you kind of processed information and learned differently, or because it sounds like you were a decent student or a good student or even a great student, but you just learned differently. I don't know. I don't know. You didn't show me
Yeah.
show
So
me your
it
report
wasn't.
cards.
I think I was a solid, like once we started really grading things, I think I was a solid B plus student. So again, average, not anything special, not anything outstanding, extraordinary, like was not a genius. My brother, he is a genius. Like he's straight A's. Like if you could go above a 4.0, he did. He's studying, like he's in medical research. That's what he's doing with his life. And like he did that, you know what I mean? He had that brain. I did not. Like instead I found so much more interest in people. And I am very much the empath when it comes to, you know, just life in general. Is again, I want to know why. I want to know who you are and why you are that way. And that's it. It's as simple as that. I think when I was growing up, I was less interested in what the assignment was and more interested in why they wanted us to do it.
Yeah.
Like,
No, that's cool. That's sort of more normal and makes sense, and I like that people, and I like that you're that way. That's interesting. And I remember you, even when
thank
we were
you.
talking previously, you mentioned like when your parents would and you would go on vacation like to Disney World or something like that, and you were more interested in just like the people behind the scenes at the park, and like what were their lives and who were they really, like you were less interested in Mickey Mouse, but the person behind the Mickey Mouse or something like that.
Yeah, I think when I was really, really young, it was just terrifying in general that, like, you know, the Beauty and the Beast is just like coming at you. As a child, it was just so foreign to me. Like, I couldn't compute it, I couldn't make sense of it. But once I was older, you know, and we went with my younger brother, um, it was just more like, well, why are you dressed as Jasmine? Like, is this what you want to do with your life? And what's funny is that I went I went to college for tourism and hospitality management, and Disney is a very big part of that world. And I met people who did want to do that with their lives. I met Aladdin, one of them. There's many, sorry to break anybody's dreams there, but just like Shamu, there are many Aladdins. And it's, yeah, it's just very interesting. Like, again, you're trying, but those are people that are trying other personas on. And I think like that's why also, I mean, you're in this world also, but like acting has been so fascinating to me. Like, I want to know how actors are able to have sustainable families, right, in their personal life, but then they're able to like step into this whole world and put on this suit of another person. Oh, there we go. Put the suit on of another person and kiss somebody else, and, you know, pretend to love these children that they're supposed to be parenting, or, you know, like have this whole other life. Like, I don't know that I would be able to separate the two. I think about that all the time, just because of how much I've soul searched and how much I've searched for my own identity and tried so many other things on. But at the same time, I felt like I never had anything to risk while I was doing it. The only thing I had to risk was myself. And it wasn't until I was probably about 26, 25, maybe, that I really started to understand that that was a risk. Risking yourself is a risk. Like, it's that's pretty high stakes because how your projection in life and how you turn out in life, it matters. I think, you know, it's identity and purpose, which is my whole shtick nowadays, is, you know, how does who you are fulfill what you're supposed to be doing? And I think that's just a common human question now. And the more I talk to other like-minded individuals and creatives, I think purpose is a huge part of identity.
Yeah, that's yeah. There's a lot to that. There's a lot to what you're saying, and it's why people sometimes act in a certain way, in a positive way or a negative way, because they either don't have a sense of purpose, or seeking it in misguided places. Like everybody, and because that's how people, like you're saying, I think, do get a large portion, at the very least, of their identity, for sure. What about like in high school? Like, because obviously you went through a lot of different phases and things and activities and directions. Where kind of were you at? Like, thinking what you might do, what you want to go to, or like what were the plans, like junior, senior year of high school? Where were you thinking? Were you going to go to college? Were you going to do, like a major, or like
Yeah,
what?
I never had a choice to not go to college.
I
Both
had a
my
feeling.
parents are academics, so yeah, could not go to college. And I did ask that question. I said, let's just take my tuition money and let me travel the world. Like, let me learn from people. Like, that was, again, always my first
I can't
instinct
imagine
was.
how they reacted to that. Let me
And not
travel
well.
and learn from people.
Yeah, and not well. Not It was not a positive response. Clearly, I had to apply to college, and I actually only applied to two colleges. I knew from the get go, like, all right, well, if I'm not going to travel, then I guess I'll go into, well, actually, let me rewind. I applied to schools in 2008, like during an economic crash. So the question I had to ask myself was, what industry is going to be sustainable where I can enter it? And if we hit another economic crash or this crash continues to go downhill, I'm still going to have a job at the end of the 4 years that I'm going to school. And I took, well, I took so many what color is your parachute tests. I took like every kind of aptitude test I could take, and it always pointed back to public relations or journalism. So at first I was like, all right, I'll do that. I'll just go to school for journalism. And I really wanted to go to NYU because my boyfriend at the time, he got into NYU Poly for to be a rocket scientist. And I was like, okay, that's like, that just makes sense. Everything's falling into place. That's what I'll do. And I went to go apply and I was like, I just don't feel like I'm good enough. And there's just so many people that want to be journalists. And it was comparison syndrome hardcore, and imposter syndrome also, just hardcore. So I said, you know what? Let me go back to something that just feels more like myself and feels more grounded. And not to be cliche white girl, but Gilmore Girls was a huge part of my life. And I just related so much to Lorelai, and she was an inn owner. And I said, you know what? I love watching her and I relate to her in so many levels. And I think that's what I want to do. I think I want to own my own bed and breakfast. So, and that was probably sophomore year of high school. So when it came to junior year and I had to ask myself these questions, I was like, okay, well, I want to be a journalist. And then when that didn't work, I went back to Lorelai and I was like, okay, tourism and hospitality it is. And my world blew open the minute I started exploring that industry. Only applied to two colleges, Temple University in Philadelphia and Johnson & Wales in Rhode Island. And I got into both. I got a full ride to Johnson & Wales, which is something called their presidential program, I think it's called, where it's an accelerated program. So you graduate in 3 years. But I chose to not do that. And my bank account is yelling at me now for it a couple years, 10 years later. But I went to Temple because I wanted to challenge myself. I wanted to immerse myself in the industry. I wanted to learn other aspects of the industry. I wanted opportunity. I wanted my world to change. And I think that that's also been another theme throughout my life, is it's just been constant change and rolling with the punches and adjusting and adapting and acclimating. And it's what I wanted. It's what I craved. And I'm very, very glad I went to Temple.
Very cool. And you were studying hospitality and
Yeah, so I studied tourism. So the degree was tourism and hospitality management. So it's part of the Fox School of Business, which is actually associated with the Ford School of Business, which is one of like the highest business management degrees you can get. So that was cool. But I was more interested in people. How can I work with people? How can I, work with different personalities every single day? I knew I got bored quickly. So what was going to give me a job that I could do different things every single day? And once again, went in thinking that I was going to just be a bed and breakfast owner. But then I was told by one of my professors, you'll never do that. And I was like, what do you mean I'll never do that? He's like, you'll never succeed at that. Pick something else.
what the hell?
And
It,
I was like,
it's
once
the,
again,
yeah, I was gonna say that's the
violin teacher all over again. So I was like, okay, that's weird, because I've literally, as a 19-year-old, brought a student chapter of a national organization to this university. I've done X, Y, and Z. I've immersed myself. Once I entered college, I was a much better student, grade wise, but it was also because I was interested in it. I wanted to learn. I wanted to immerse myself in in that world and in that industry. So I applied myself. And so it was just so strange that he said that to me. So I was like, okay, give me options. What else can I do? What else do you think I'll be good at? And he's like, well, you're a really good writer. What if you did travel writing or hospitality writing? Okay. And there it was. So I wrote for, as a 19-year-old, I wrote for one of the nation's largest hospitality management magazines, which is called Lodging. And I had my own student blog when blogging just started, and it was off to the races. From there, I just did every single opportunity I could to write and to interview people, and I think that's where I fell in love with interviewing.
Yeah, that's cool. So you were getting a lot of fulfillment out of doing that. I mean, I'm just letting you tell this story. We're getting to the different phases of your life, and
Yeah.
I'm just listening. I appreciate the stories. Um, so how long did you do the? Because you're not doing that now exactly, from what I understand.
It's a little bit different
The
now.
travel and the writing.
Yeah.
Yeah, just continue the
So,
chronology.
okay. So Temple University, did all that, was 19 years old. So obviously you don't graduate college at 19 years old. That's only sophomore year. Junior year, I start to really think about what it is I want to do though when I graduate. Do I want to go to a major magazine? Do I want to be a travel reporter? Do I want to go into public relations? Do I want to go into anthropology? Do I want to go into, philosophy? I was taking all these additional courses for my general education credits, and I was starting to fall in love with other versions of myself. And I really came at a crossroads and had to ask myself a lot more questions. And eventually it just came down to, I want to open up my own business. And that was very scary for my parents to hear after paying, paying so much money, and like me being in debt, graduating with student loans. And you want to open up your own business? What do you mean? You got a college degree, so you could go get a stable job. But I just felt, it's just such the epitome of a young adult, where you have all this information and you're supercharged with passion.
Idealistic.
Totally. And like, you want to take on the world. Like, you feel like you have some superpower, right? You haven't just graduated with a piece of paper or a diploma. Like, you've graduated with a superpower. And I really wanted to do that. So and I had written for other magazines throughout my college career there. And I also even did an internship with, if they're no longer called this, but it was called Blog Lovin', which was from Sweden that came to the United States. So I worked in the fashion district in New York City with them. Got to meet all kinds of really cool people who were not big then, but are really big now, and got to watch their careers grow. And I was one of the people that helped them. Like, I was one of the people that, kind of was like, no, like, you need to do this. You need to get online. You need to say these things. I was already doing like this weird public relations, writing, marketing, personal branding hybrid. They just didn't have a name yet. Didn't have a category in the world yet. So graduated doing that, wanted to do my own business, and I did. I opened up my first business, and I moved to Maine with another boyfriend, and we just started working at this resort as consultants, because he studied like sports and recreation management, so it was coupled with my degree. It was under the same, I don't know what you call that, same business school.
Was it a brick and mortar like business, or was it more like a service that you had? Like, what did
We
it
were
look
really
like?
lucky, and we got to travel. We did it ourselves. It was just pick up, go wherever you wanted to go. Of course, that just like doomed us though, relationship wise. We picked up, we moved away from, I mean, he grew up in Pennsylvania. So like all through his college career, he was like right near his family. And he had dreams of his own. He's a wonderful lyricist. He's, he raps, but he's just so poetic and such a talented, brilliant writer still to this day. But it was just, the dynamic of what, like, we don't really know who we are. Like, you graduate college and you're still trying to figure yourself out, let alone figure out what you want to do for the rest of your life. So that was really hard on us in the relationship, because we were all of a sudden living together in this resort in Maine, on the coast of Maine, that my dad's best friend had just bought. And he's like, I want you guys to come here with all the knowledge that you have, and I want you to help me flip it. And we did. Like, we helped, completely restructure and organize the management of the resort. We put together a huge kickoff party. We did all these partnerships. Like, we flipped it upside down. We hired photographers. Like, I didn't know how to do a lot of that stuff, and I acted like I did. And I just
That's
did it.
great.
I just figured it out.
That's great.
And again, it's branding, right? Like, it was hospitality branding and it was hospitality management, but I was calling myself a consultant at 21 years old. It was insane. And I just kept going at that. And then when that failed, I tried something else. And when that failed, I tried something else. And, even when I was at my lowest, where, like, I don't know, I was working for Victoria's Secret as a manager, or I was working at Jose Bank as a manager, or I was waitressing or bartending. I never took it as a failure. I always took it as me getting back to basics. It was a regrouping session.
Where does that come from, that mentality or that attitude? Is it, maybe it's because you've always had, like you saying, a unique way of learning or processing information or even processing what's happening? Is that, like, just, it's always just like who you've been, whether it's a job or whether it's some other
Yeah,
hurdle to deal with?
I honestly think it just comes from my family dynamics, maybe. Just again, being 8 years older than my brother. My brother had a lot of sinus infections as a little kid, and he was just always sick all the time. And my parents just always needed to, they needed to tend to him because he was the baby, and he was sick. And as a mother myself, I totally understand that now. But at 8 years old, at 9, 10, 11, like, you don't understand that. So there's a switch that flips in your brain where it's like, okay, for the last 8 years, I was taken care of. Every sniffle, every scrape, every bruise, whether it was on my ego or knee, like, I was taken care of. And now all of a sudden, I'm not. So, and it wasn't that they didn't take care of me. Like, I was still part of the family. I still went on
Sure,
family
of
vacations.
course.
I wasn't Harry Potter living under the stairs. It was just different. It was a huge shift for me emotionally and like mentally. And as an 8-year-old, I don't know, I just kind of picked up and definitely acted out. I'm not saying that I was an angel by any stretch of the imagination. I was angry all the time and sad and didn't understand and hurt, but I always just picked up and went on to the next thing. And I think that when I had to do that figuring out myself bit of my life, which I've done a lot of identity crisis management.
It sounds like it. You ever think you do? You ever think it's almost like, I get that you're a deep thinker and think a lot about these topics, and as do I to some degree. But you ever think you almost need, like, a break or from all of this soul searching? People soul,
Yeah.
yeah. I guess that's a thing. Sometimes people need a break to soul search, but maybe other people need a break from soul searching. Just let themselves
Yes.
be a little bit, if that makes any sense.
100%. And the thing is, like, it's different though. It's not like if you need a break from work, you just stop working, or like you need a break from a friendship, you just stop communicating. Like, I feel like if you need a break from yourself, like, you can't run away from yourself. Famous philosopher, writer said, wherever you go, there you are. Right. And I don't, Howard, is it Howard? It's not Howard Zinn. It's escaping me right now. And I'm really mad at myself that I don't remember who said that, but wherever you go, there you are. You can't take a break from yourself. What you can do, and like A Course in Miracles taught me this. I'm a huge Gabby Bernstein listener. But if you need a break from soul searching, just let things happen. And like, that was my biggest thing. Like, I could never let things go. I always felt like I needed needed control of things. And it wasn't until my current little family, my husband and my daughter, that I started to understand, okay, ego needs to check itself out. Like, I can't control everything and I shouldn't have to. I shouldn't need to manage everything. I shouldn't need to be, at the forefront steering the ship all the time. Like, it's okay if I just ride this one out. And that was a really hard thing for me to do because I always felt like the caretaker in my family growing up, in every friendship I had, in every romantic relationship I had. I felt like I had to always be on and always take care of someone else and never could take care of myself. And it really wasn't until I have had my husband and my daughter all in the same year that I was like, you know what? I just need to check out for a minute and I'll be back. And there's just no better thing than filling your cup up. It's really hard sometimes, but it's necessary.
And what do you mean filling your cup up?
God, and like the simplest of things, whether it's going for a walk, meditating, journaling, or just
But
not saying anything,
do
in an
do it.
argument.
Yeah, doing things that are like just for you. Small things, giving yourself even time in some regard, time to just be alone with whatever those things you were describing.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, for me, it's okay. I'm gonna go upstairs and do my nails real quick, or okay, I'm gonna go write part of my book, or okay, I'm gonna go and do the laundry. Like, just something that nobody is around me anymore, and I can just breathe and let something go. It sounds so silly, but it's very simple, and I need to do it more.
No, that makes sense. I follow, and I need to be more, I guess, mindful. Is that kind of what we're going for?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's such an overused word nowadays, but that's 100%. I mean, what is it to be mindful of something? It's to be fully present, right? It's to be fully in that moment, be fully aware of your surroundings and your words and your actions and your reactions, and like being able to be mindful effortlessly takes practice,
That's what
I
I was gonna
think.
say. I can't do all those things you're saying. It's too many things. Be aware of everything. I'm more like a hyperactive, imaginative
Yeah,
type daydreamer. I'm
you're
like,
creative.
yeah,
That's
I'm over here. People are working on this stuff, or I'm observing specific things. I suppose I'm either observing specific things, or I'm like observing my own thoughts or something like that.
Mhm.
If that
Yeah,
makes any
that's
sense.
oh, yes, of course it does. I mean, that's what I was talking about before is like being a different learner is never clicked. Like standardized testing never did well at that. Like standardized learning never caught on to that. I think for people like you and me, like I need the constant things going. I need to know what's going to happen next, and if I don't know what's going to happen next, then I'm going to tell somebody what's going to happen next. And it's just one thing like going constantly, constantly, constantly. It's such an art form. Like I can't even stress it enough. It's such an
Leadership.
art
I feel like
form.
what you're describing is leadership in some regards, and taking
Comes
charge
very
or whatever.
naturally to me. Yes, yes. Leadership is a natural born talent. I do have to give myself credit for that. Is okay, like someone doesn't know what to do, I will jump in and manage the situation. Like I will take hold of it, I'll make it all better. And it's funny, like even my job now, uh, I idolize my boss. Like I think she's brilliant and I think she knows what she wants and where she's going and where she'd like to go and how to get there. But it's just been such a theme throughout my life that people that I admire and I look up to come to me and say, "Hey, can you help me put this plan together? Can you help me strategize this, this plan or can you help me get on the path to this?" And it's again, it's just always been me scooping up the pieces and putting it all together for someone to be visible, for someone
Yeah,
to be seen and heard.
yeah. I'm gonna make a list for you.
Okay.
and I'll email you all the things that I need help with. I'm gonna it's gonna destroy your inbox. It's gonna fill up
Do it.
your memory. I'm not gonna do well. Maybe I will. We'll see. I don't know. I have to think. I have to mull things over more. Interesting. Tell me about like your husband and your daughter and all that, and your family and that journey. We can get into that
Oh
if
boy.
you'd like. I'd like to hear
Sure.
more for sure.
Sure. How much time do you have? So my husband and I have been together for uh 4 years, 4.5 years. And my daughter is going to be 3. So if you can do the math with that one, that'll tell you some things about my husband and I. But I was I just come back from Puerto Rico, didn't know what to do with myself, and was still dating the person that I had moved to Puerto Rico with, which was a total narcissistic mind fuck relationship, just totally emotionally draining all the time. But for some reason, it felt familiar to me. So I stuck around and tried to, always tell myself, no, it's going to get better. It's going to get better. It never does. So it didn't. But I was still with that person when I met my husband. And I was managing hair salon and waitressing at night. And my husband was a carpenter at the time, and he was a pizza chef at night. And we worked at the same restaurant. And it was only my second shift at this restaurant. And my brother had worked there for a year prior. So he'd worked there for a year already, and he knew my husband. And I was my second shift at this restaurant, and I heard this guy laugh. And I just knew I want to hear that laugh for the rest of my life.
Wow.
And it was so weird because I had, I'm a serial dater, one person just after the next.
It's your personality with some other aspects of your life. I
Mhm.
kind of could follow that.
Yeah. And it was never really me breaking up with anybody. It was just, okay, they got bored. That's fine. There's somebody else. And I don't know. So I heard this laugh, and it was so weird. I felt like, oh, I want to hear that laugh more, and I want to make that person laugh. And it was just this very strange but kismet soul connection that I just had instantly with this person. And I look over and I saw him, totally not my type. He's just not the type of person that I would usually date. But he fit all the criteria and that I would need at that time in my life. So, I didn't pursue it, but I asked him the end of that shift for a pizza. I said, I'm gonna clock out soon. Is there any way I can get a pizza before I go? And he told me, yeah, if you put it through the register. And I was trying to not pay for food, like I'm freaking working 2 jobs. Like, can I just get some free food here? And I also was testing him because I wanted to see if he thought that, looking at me, that maybe.
I
But
follow.
but no, he didn't bite.
You're opening a window.
The next week, I didn't say anything to him. I was like, okay, F that dude, no free pizza. So I go to clock out, and he sees me cleaning up and clocking out, and he goes, yeah, your pizza's on the back. And I was like, what? He goes, your pizza's on the back window. And he had made me food. And I was like, I didn't ask for anything. How do you even know what I wanted? He's like, oh, I asked your brother. Oh,
Wow.
okay. So that happens. The third week, again, I'm not giving this guy any other signs. Like, I thanked him for it, and that was that. But, not giving him any signs. The third week, and he doesn't see, like, he's so shy, right? Like, this guy is tall, he's 6'2", he has glasses, he's very quiet. He just, the whole shift, he's head down making pizza after pizza after pizza. He's seems friendly enough, but he's very quiet. And clearly I'm not quiet. I like to talk. I like to be around people. I can tell he's the opposite. And I asked my brother, I'm like, what is his deal? And my brother just looked at me and he pointed a finger at me. He goes, Caili, don't. And I'm like, okay, why not? And he goes, he has an anger management problem or something. Like he's always yelling in the kitchen. Like he's a construction worker. So you don't know, blah, blah, blah. Like that, you are making so many judgmental, like categorical, opinions right now. Like what? And he's like, no, I worked with him for a year. But anyone who's worked in a kitchen knows like tension is high when it comes to Saturday, Friday night. Like people are yelling all the time. He didn't have anger management issues. It was just he wanted to get things done. So I was like, I'm not afraid of that. So third week, I'm setting the tables because I'm opening, and he looks over at me. My husband looks over at me, and he goes, "So how was your pizza last week?" And I was like, "Oh, it was good. Thank you so much." And he smiles, and he goes, "Now you can never say I didn't make you dinner." And I was like, "Whoa, is that like a flirtation thing going on here?" And I just, I blushed and I smiled and I just continued on. And sure enough, like he continued to pursue. And eventually, like Mother's Day comes around, we talk our whole shift, and we end up going for walks and going out to dinner. And he was so honest with me our very first date. Still dating this other guy, by the way, in Puerto Rico, who's not Puerto Rican, but he was from Connecticut. And I go out to dinner with my now husband, and we get our food, and he goes, "I just want to be 100% honest with you about something." And I'm like, "Oh crap, here we go." And was not expecting what he was going to say to me. He goes, "I'm in recovery." And I'm like, "Okay, thank you for being honest. Thank you for, your communication with that." And he's like, no, it's not alcohol. It's heroin.
Wow.
Okay. So whole other ball game. Like I grew up in my family's no addiction, but outside my extended family, lots of addiction. And my parents did a lot to shield me from that, to protect me from that, to educate me, but to also protect me from that. So I never saw what drugs looked like. I never saw somebody strung out. Like they educated me. They told me this happened, but never witnessed it myself. So from that moment on, again, had a decision to make. Do I want to be with this person or not? Don't know what I'm getting myself into. But he was just always so honest. Every single step of the way, honest. And of course, the more that our relationship evolved, I let that other person I was dating go. And which was really hard for me because I was with that person the longest I'd ever been with anybody. I was with that other person for like 4 years, which is a very long time in my lifespan. And it was really hard when I did let that person go because I knew I was letting him go and there was no option but to let him go and be with my husband. That's what it felt like. The codependency in me was really kicking in. And I was like, if I do this, I have nobody or I have this person in recovery. And am I okay with that? So long story short, my husband and I get pregnant. He is still in recovery. So he is 5 years sober now, 4 years, 5 years sober.
That's great.
And it was the minute that we got pregnant that he was like, "Okay, I'm done. I'm done with that. I'm never touching it again, never thinking about it again." I'm just like, he has so much strength. Like I'm in awe of him every single day because I do know a lot of other people who are in recovery, and I've read about so many other people, and I've heard so many other people's stories about recovery, and it is no small feat to stay sober. It is huge. It is a huge undertaking. It is a huge fight every single day.
I was gonna say that's what you hear, and that's what I've heard is that like for serious stuff, it's like every day is like a battle to some degree. Yeah.
Oh, 100%. And again, like our daughter is just the angel that needed to be because the minute he found out about her, it was just life-changing for him. He's like, "Nope, done. I'm done." And he did relapse a couple of times before we were pregnant. And watching him go through that and having me stay by his side the whole time, I think is what changed things for him, because he had never had that before.
Sure.
Same with him. People come and go from your life, and you push people out because you get angry and you have this like craving inside of you. For him, it was addiction. For me, it was just, oh, I need a rush of life all the time. Like, I just need life to be sparkly and exciting all the time. And how can I sustain that? Well, different people, every single day, all the time. And for us to make this decision together of, okay, I have my demons, you have your demons. One of my best friends said it the best way. Everybody has shit. It's just, whose shit do you want to deal with? And we made that decision together of, okay, you want to be a dad, I want to be a mom one day, but what if it happens sooner? And it wasn't that difficult. And now she is 3 years old, and it was life altering. I mean, it wasn't that difficult to make her, but it was very difficult for me to go through so many, again, identity changes. I became a mother and a wife in the same year. And for him, he became a husband and a dad in the same year. And just life has been elevated for us because of her. And it's been more, well, it just got stable with the purchase of the house. But we
Stable
have
in a different
jobs.
way. Stable in a different way.
Yeah, stability in a way that we never knew we could have. Let me put it that way.
Emotional stability in a sense.
100%. I mean, if you asked us 4 years ago, oh, did you know that you could be a family, have a daughter, be able to pay all your bills, have stable dream jobs, and oh yeah, you live in a state that feels like home to you and you have a community, we would have not believed you. Like, not at all. Like, we would have laughed in your face. Like, that never would happen in a million years. And here we are, and it's because of her. It's all because of her. We fight every single day because of her. And she is the person in the world that I love the most, because A, she's my child, but B, she pushes me to be a better person every single day, and not just a better mother or a better role model for her, but a better version of me, a better wife, a better daughter, a better friend, a better worker, a better writer, just better everything. Like, everything. It's really hard being a parent for a toddler because she challenges me, but it's just better. I don't know how to say it any
I
other
think you're
way.
saying it. She inspires you. She motivates you. She pushes you, challenges you, and just gives you so much joy. It sounds like.
Oh yeah. And also, she puts things into perspective. Like, every heartbreak I've ever had, every tragedy I've ever gone through, right? Every success, every triumph, every feat, it all happened to make me the person I'm supposed to be for her. And that's a lot of weight to put on another human being, I feel like, but it's the truth. I mean, she gives me the motivation to understand my past, because it's so easy to be able to say, well, today's a new day. Yesterday didn't matter, or what I did 5 years ago doesn't matter. But the thing is that as human beings, we leave impressions on people, and we leave scars sometimes. And sometimes, we leave glitter wherever we go, or we leave good impressions. But fact of the matter is that you always left a piece of you with someone else that came into your life. And I choose to never forget that. Like, I really hold on to those relationships, even if it was a crush, even if it was for 5 minutes. Like, if I've met you and we had some sort of interaction, I took some sort of mental, capture of that. And it's really helped me be a better person for her. I don't know, it's strange the way that people come in and out of your life and the things that they teach you, but it's
Sometimes you're not
there.
even aware of it. Yeah, sometimes you're not even aware. You're aware of it. It's things are working, or you absorb stuff from other people on a deeper, even subconscious or whatever level, and it just comes out in your actions and behaviors at like random points and parts of your existence. That sounds great. I'm happy for you and your family, and it sounds like you're
Thank
getting a lot
you.
of fulfillment and joy out of all of it. And tell me more about, like, bring me more up to date on what you're working on professionally from, like, after your daughter was born and now she's 3. Bring me up to
Mhm.
date, kind of where we're at in that world.
So I think I told you when we were on our phone call that it really wasn't a full year after she was born that things started to click to me personally and for me. It was when she turned 1 that I started saying to myself, maybe I should really start reaching for things that I want to do in life again. Maybe like I don't need to be that mom that makes everything about her, but I can do everything for her. So what I started asking myself again, self, what do you want? Like what makes you happy these days? And it was still writing, but it was still helping people. And I started a new business where I was doing website design and logo design, and again, just really helping people elevate their brands and who they were in their businesses. And that evolved into brand story writing. So I did that up until mm, last November, so around this time last year. And in this past June, I got a job with an agency that I had been circling set for the last 6 years. Really wanted to work there, but was never really good enough to work there. And also didn't have like a specific skill set that would match their level of standards and their clientele. So worked really hard in trying to find, again, like where could I fit in and what could I do to like help them succeed. And to my wonderful surprise, in June, a spot opened up with them, a position opened up with them, and I applied for it. Had no reason to really apply for it other than craving once again stability. My business was doing fine. Like I was bringing in a decent amount of money, continually getting new clients, but just wanted to learn more. Wanted new people to be around me every single day. Wanted that rush of life again. So applied for it, got the job, and my job has evolved there a couple of times. And now I am a copywriter for CPG companies. I help with social media, and I also do a lot of our brand activations. So a lot of relationships with media and magazines and awards and trade shows and all sorts of fun stuff. And now I'm starting 2 podcasts, one for my job and one for my exploration of identity and purpose with my friend Nicole. So just
Wow.
always going.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Plus the family and all this. There's a lot going on. How are you able to manage all these different aspects of your life, even just time-wise?
Compart it's really compartmentalization, which is such a strange word to me still to this day. But I remember being 18 years old, and my best friend and boyfriend again at the time, uh, his mom was dying of cancer, and I had known them for such a long time. I was 18 years old, but I knew him since I was about 9. And I was sitting on the porch with her, and she was smoking, and just at the time, like in my life, like there was no such thing as compartmentalization, did not know the word, was not familiar with the strategy of it, where you literally had cubbies of your life and your emotions, and you appropriately placed them where they were meant to go. And she explained this to me in that way, where like you can't be mad at this and then have it overflow to this person. She was a therapist, and she was explaining this to me, and no one had taken the time to say, hey, maybe you should cut the shit. Like maybe you should treat the people in your life as though they are that specific person in your life, and not be mad at them because this other person did this thing, or sad around them because this other person did this thing. It was compartmentalization. And I think that from that moment on, I just took it so seriously, where, okay, when I'm, again, it's being mindful effortlessly. When I'm with this person, I'm with this person. And when I'm writing this assignment, I am fully immersed in this assignment. And I still get distracted. I still procrastinate. I'm human, but it's really practicing that compartmentalization that keeps everything in check for me.
Right. I prefer to multitask and do a million things all at once and do a
Yeah.
bad job at all of them. Or
Well, I
no, not
do
necessarily a bad
that.
job, but
Well, yeah. I mean, you can still multitask and compartmentalize all at the same time.
no,
It's just
I
my
don't think I
preferred
can. I
method.
don't think I can. I don't think I can.
I think you could if you tried. If you tried.
Oh, but yeah, all right, I'll try. I'll do my best. We're
That's good.
working
That's a
on it.
good first step.
We're
Good first
working
step.
on it for
Good first
sure.
step. Mhm.
Wow. I think we covered a lot. Did we not cover a lot?
Yeah, I
Your
think
your
I
your,
think we
your
did. I think my
journeys,
voice is
fam.
about to like go out. So
Yeah, you doing all the work. I appreciate that. Anything we missed that you would like to share or bring me up to date on before we get into plugs and promotions and where people can find and
oh
follow
boy.
you, I'll kind of let you wrap it up a little. I'm not kicking you out, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I
Wrap
mean,
up the conversation. I mean, like
yeah.
your story.
Yeah, so okay, so there is one thing though that's a little bit more on the serious side that we didn't cover, but I feel like I need to
Oh
talk
yeah,
about
yeah.
it.
I think I know where this is going because we.
Mhm. So, okay, so when I was in college, I only partied my first year there because when you're in college, that's like what you're supposed to do, right? You're supposed to like go out and party. Um, and I was not the partying type. I didn't do it really in high school. And if I did do it in high school, it was with a group of people that I knew. In college, you don't know anybody. The whole point of, I guess, partying is to go and meet people. But it was Halloween, and I got roofied, and that was the first time I got raped.
Wow. I'm
And then,
sorry.
thank
That's
you.
awful.
1 year later, I wasn't even at a party, and this boy who was in one of my classes took a liking to me in a little bit of a Netflix U vibe, just always asking me, oh, like, where do you live? What are you doing after, your classes? What time do you get off work? This like normal questions that you would think would be normal in everyday conversation when you're, getting to know someone. But I was not trying to get to know this person. He was just part of my study group. And come to find out that he definitely had a crush on me, showed up at my apartment drunk one night, already with a condom on, and
Wow.
once again
Jeez.
was sexually assaulted. And I just feel like not enough women talk, not enough people talking to women. I shouldn't say that. Like, not enough people talk about their traumas. And I've done enough soul searching, obviously. I've gone to enough therapy. I've done enough writing and journaling to the point where I understand that if we don't talk about our traumas and we don't not normalize them, that's not what I'm going for. But if we don't allow them to hold rent in our heads, or we don't allow them to take over our lives or our reactions, then we become more healed and more whole of a person. And that took me a really that happened when I was 19, 18 and 19. So that took what, like 10 years for me to figure out, 11 years.
That's awful. I'm so sorry. That's just horrible. Like
It's a really bad way to end this podcast. I really
no,
apologize, but
it's okay. It's-
but I just wanted to also say, like, there are people, PSA, there are people who are there for you, even if you feel alone. There are people who it's happened to who also don't want to talk about it, and finding that camaraderie, that commonality may actually create a healthy bond. And it wasn't until I started really opening up to other people about it that I felt less alone. And I felt alone a lot in my life, hence why I'm going all over the place all the time. Um, but it's very important. I just feel like to talk about it because not enough people do, and really allowing your voice to be heard is such a big part of, has been such a big part of my life. So if you need to reach out to somebody, I am here, and I am happy to connect you with, proper resources if you need it. But definitely therapy really helped me. Reach out to a family member or a friend and just get the help that you need. Help is not a weakness, it's a strength.
I think,
So
yeah, I think that's all. That's a great attitude, and that's awesome that you extend yourself in that way. And I don't think this is a bad way to end the conversation at all, because that's what is more. What could possibly be? There are a few things more important than what you're saying right now. And not only that, I think it's a good segue into you giving your plugs and promotions and how people could find and follow you in case they want to reach out in this context and seek help. So I think bravo all around. And again, I'm sorry that you had to go through all that. It's just terrible. Like
no,
I don't have the right
I
I don't have
appreciate
the
it.
right words to there aren't the right words to describe how
No, and
awful that
it's
is.
such an
And
awkward thing, right? Like I never say it. I appreciate your sympathy very, very much. And it's never, it's never, whenever I mention it to people, like it's never me trying to get, oh, poor you, or pity, or,
no, I
sympathy, or
don't get
anything
that at
like that.
all.
It's very much, again, like these stories need to be told. Like your story, no matter how, like there's so many things we didn't even cover in this conversation,
I'm
like
sure.
things that I've done that I cannot wait to put in my book and have it be out there for people to read, because I did some crazy, stupid, stupid things. And it is amazing that I am alive, and it is amazing. And I just think that every single day. Like, I'm so grateful that I made it through all that, because I'm here for some reason. And I think everybody else is too. So if you would like to reach out to me, you can find me on Instagram. It's just my name, at Caili Elwell. And that's probably the best way to find me and reach out to me.
Caili,
Mhm.
correct?
Yes, yes. Caili
Gotcha.
Elwell. Mhm.
Very cool. Well, I definitely appreciate the time, the stories, and I'm learning and I'm inspired. I'm inspired that the things that you're inspired at too. It's cool and for me to hear, and I appreciate it. A lot of personal stuff in there, and I'm glad that you're doing well and doing what you love and around people that you love and that love you and that inspire you to want to be a better person in more ways than one, and the best you, as you're describing. This is all good stuff for me to like hear and just kind of absorb, and just to be around people like yourself. I think is just it's like healthy for me, even if I don't can't even pinpoint a specific thing. And although I am pinpointing specific things that I like to hear and that are cool for me, but just the your whole vibe is cool
Thank
to
you
be
so
around.
much. I really appreciate it. I appreciate your time and you letting me come on and share my story. It's always nice to talk, even to strangers, every once in a while.
Oh, I like to listen and I appreciate it. And I'll let you get on with the rest of your day.
Thank you
And
so
your daughter's
much.
probably needs your attention. I'm guessing.
Thank you so much, Adam.
Oh, you're welcome. Talk soon, Kelly. Later. So there you have it. Episode number 120 and my conversation with Caili Elwell. That was a lot of fun. I really thank her for sharing her time and personal stories with me. It means a lot and is definitely appreciated. And I do think her husband, the first time she met him, was probably just caught off guard by the whole pizza thing. That's probably why he told her to go through the register in the first place. He was probably flustered. But anyway, for everything about this show, of course, head to peoplewelovepodcast.com. That's at People We Love Podcast. I am at Adam Choit on Instagram and Twitter. My other podcast is Tedeschi Trucks Podcast, at Tedeschi Trucks Podcast on Instagram, all about the band Tedeschi Trucks Podcast. Please check that out too. But I think that's about all I got for today. I appreciate you guys listening and watching, and thanks as always. And let's talk soon. Peace.